Chosen one. Stop here. Yes. Right now. Heaven has pressed pause on everything around you because this word is not casual. It is not coincidence. It is a divine interruption. You are not scrolling by mistake. This is not background noise. This is the whisper of eternity cutting through your distractions. You feel it, don't you? That pull inside your chest. That trembling recognition that you are not like the rest. You've tried to blend in, but even in silence, you stood out. You've tried to hide, but your very shadow announces that you are marked. The reason you've been misunderstood is not because you are broken, but because you are chosen. I want you to picture this: a lighthouse standing on a cliff while storms rage. Waves slam. Winds howl. Clouds swallow the sky, yet the beam of that lighthouse cannot be extinguished. That is you. Heaven stops for you because your light matters to the lost ships in the dark. Without your obedience, someone else may drift further from salvation. You've wondered, why me? Why the heavy nights? Why the strange resistance? Why the feeling of always walking against the crowd? Hear me. It is because you are heaven's interruption in a world that loves its sleep. You were placed here as a wake-up call, not an echo. You are the voice crying out in your own wilderness. Imagine a violin stored in dust, strings loose, body cracked. For years, nobody noticed it. Nobody played it. But when the master picks it up, he does not see ruin, he sees music waiting to awaken. Chosen one. You are that instrument. The seasons of neglect, the silence of waiting, were never a waste. They were tuning, and now, heaven stops everything to whisper, play again. There was a young woman once, overlooked for years. She prayed in silence while friends married, traveled, lived what seemed like fuller lives. She felt hidden, unseen, forgotten. But one night in prayer, she felt the Spirit whisper, "Hidden is not forgotten." Years later, the very pain that broke her became the testimony that saved another. You are no different. Your waiting season was never wasted. It is the soil of your future harvest. It is written in the book of Isaiah, chapter 42, verse 31. Those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar like eagles, run without weariness, walk without fainting. Hear this: your exhaustion is not the end of your story. Your weakness is not your disqualification. It is the very place where God will prove His power. Listen carefully. This is not the time to wander off. This is a crossroads moment. Heaven stopped you here because too much is at stake to scroll past. Do not ignore this. Do not dismiss it. You have been chosen to hear and chosen to respond. Now, I must ask you, if this word has pierced your heart, if you sense that this message was carved for you, then pause and act. Lift your voice in the comments, declare boldly, "I receive this word." Let heaven see your faith. And if this is speaking to you, share it, like it, and subscribe so that you stay connected to words that carry life for your soul. Chosen one. Your time of wandering is over. Heaven stops for you. Because heaven is sending you. You have carried burdens that no one else could see. The nights when your pillow was soaked in tears. The mornings when you wore a smile to hide the breaking inside. The moments you felt abandoned by people who should have stayed. All of it has been seen by heaven. Nothing has slipped through the eyes of the one who formed you. Sometimes, It felt as though silence was the only answer you received. You prayed, but the heavens seemed like brass. You cried out, but no comfort came. Yet even in that silence, God was closer than your breath. The unseen hours you endured were not wasted. They were counted, measured, and stored like treasure in heaven's records. Think of a seed buried in soil. From the outside, it looks like nothing is happening, just dirt, darkness, and waiting. But beneath the ground, life is stirring. Roots are forming, strength is growing, and the unseen becomes preparation for the breaking forth. Your hidden struggles were exactly that. A seed, season, painful. Yes. Lonely. Yes. But vital. Because hidden growth always precedes visible fruit. There was once a young man who walked through years of rejection. His family misunderstood him. His community doubted him. And betrayal cut deep into his heart. Yet those very wounds carved space for a compassion he would never have learned otherwise. Years later, when others needed comfort, he became the one who carried words like healing oil. Do you see what the enemy tried to use to break him? Heaven repurposed to shape him. Your struggles have been like chisels in the hand of a master sculptor. Every strike, every sharp edge, every season of pain was not random, it was shaping. A block of stone does not understand why pieces are being broken off, but the sculptor sees the form hidden within. Likewise, heaven has always seen the masterpiece in you. Even when all you saw was fragments, you may have wondered, does God even see me? The answer is unshakable. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah. Chapter 29, verse 11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a future and a hope. That future was never cancelled by your tears. Those plans were never erased by your pain. Imagine walking through a desert at night. Sand stretches endlessly. Silence weighs heavy. And stars glitter far above, but feel unreachable. That desert is not your destination. It is the place where you are taught to depend on water that flows not from the earth, but from the rock. Just as Israel wandered yet was never forsaken, you too have been carried even when you felt forgotten. Your hidden struggles have prepared you in ways you cannot yet see. The sleepless nights have sharpened your prayers. The tears have softened your heart. The disappointments have anchored you deeper into faith. Without knowing it, you have been forged like steel in fire. What others called weakness, heaven calls refinement. So do not despise what you walked through. Do not curse the very valley that trained your steps. One day soon, you will look back and see that every hidden struggle was a classroom, and every painful lesson was part of your preparation. You have been seen, chosen one. Every silent night has been heard, and the God who counts your tears will soon crown them with joy. You were never meant to blend in from the very beginning. Heaven stamped something different upon you. Others could compromise and feel nothing, but your spirit was pierced when you tried. Others could chase after what fades, but your heart longed for what is eternal. You wondered why you didn't fit, why you always felt set apart. The truth is this: you were marked from birth. Even before your first breath, purpose hovered over your life. Think of a candle that refuses to stay hidden, even when buried in darkness. Its flame finds a way to break through. You are that flame. Your uniqueness is not an accident. it is a prophecy. Your difference is not rejection, it is confirmation. There was a young boy who grew up in silence, overshadowed by louder voices, always the odd one out. He thought his quietness was weakness. But years later, God used that very sensitivity to hear whispers others missed. What looked like strangeness was really training. In the same way, what people misunderstood in you has been heaven's fingerprint all along. You may remember the sting of being left out, the ache of being mocked, the loneliness of being called too much or not enough. Those were not random wounds, they were reminders that you were walking a narrow road. The world cannot recognize what heaven has marked, because light always looks strange to eyes accustomed to the dark. Consider a diamond. When first pulled from the earth, it is covered in rough edges, unrecognizable to most, but the jeweler sees value, others overlook. He cuts, shapes, and polishes until brilliance bursts forth. Chosen one. That is you. The edges that others rejected are the very signs that heaven's hands have been working on you. According to what is revealed in the book of Proverbs, chapter 16, verse 9, in their hearts humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. You thought your detours meant failure, but heaven was guiding your steps all along. Even the paths that confused you were part of a bigger direction only God could see. Do you realize what this means? It means the things that set you apart, the things you once hated about yourself, are the very markers of your destiny. Your unusual compassion, your relentless sense of justice, your ability to see beauty where others see ruin, these are not flaws. They are signs that you were chosen to carry what others could not. So I ask you now to pause. Put this moment into action. Write these words in the comments. Chosen on purpose. This is more than a sentence, it is a declaration. By writing it, you are renouncing the lies that told you that you were an accident. You are declaring to yourself and to heaven that your existence is not random. You were deliberately crafted, deliberately placed, deliberately marked. Every scar, every story, every struggle, none of it disqualifies you. It all testifies you are chosen on purpose, chosen one. Your uniqueness is not something to hide anymore. It is time to wear it like a crown. The world will finally see what heaven always knew. You were marked from birth, and your difference was your destiny. And as you rise into this identity, every season of rejection will turn into proof of selection, every wound into wisdom, and every silent night into a testimony that shakes the darkness. The resistance you have faced has never been ordinary. The reason battles seemed to find you was not because you were weak, but because the light within you disturbed the darkness around you. You carry something the enemy fears, and that fear is the explanation behind the intensity of the attacks against your life. Imagine a lion walking quietly through a field, even without roaring. Its presence makes smaller animals scatter. That is you. You don't always need to speak to be noticed. Your very presence unsettles what is not of God. There is a weight to your spirit, an authority on your life that even you have not fully recognized. From childhood, maybe you felt opposition. People spoke against you. Doors closed. Friendships crumbled without reason. It wasn't random. The enemy saw glimpses of what you carried, and he feared what you would become if you fully stepped into your calling. That is why the pressure was heavier on you than on others. Think of how Moses was targeted as a baby. or how Joseph was betrayed by his brothers. Their lives attracted hostility not because of what they had done, but because of who they were destined to be. In the same way, your struggles have been prophetic indicators of the weight of your assignment. The attacks against you were never just about you. They were about silencing the influence you were meant to have. They were about stopping the generations your life will impact. They were about cutting off the ripple of hope you were designed to release. But here you stand, still breathing, still chosen. Proof that the darkness did not win. The apostle reminds us in his letter to the Corinthians. The second book, chapter 4, verse 8. We are hard-pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair. These words echo through time, and they describe you. Pressed, but not crushed. Attacked, but not defeated. Imagine a torch carried through the night. Moths swarm. Winds try to blow it out. Rain seeks to drench it. Yet the flame persists. That is your spirit. Every time life tried to smother you, the fire of God within reignited stronger than before. Your life is evidence that the enemy's fears were justified, because despite every attempt to silence you, you still carry light. Despite every plan to discourage you, you still rise. Despite the countless times you were tempted to quit, you still endure. Chosen one, realize this. The opposition against you is not proof of abandonment, but proof of assignment. Darkness does not waste energy on those who pose no threat. The intensity you have faced only confirms how dangerous you are to the kingdom of darkness. And when you finally embrace this truth, you will stop asking, "Why me?" Instead, you will understand, because I carry something eternal. Your battles are the enemy's confession of your significance. Take this in slowly. You are not being resisted because you are weak. You are resisted because you are marked. Even the scars you carry are signs of survival, not shame. They testify that you endured the fire and did not burn. They declare that the pit could not swallow you, that despair could not hold you. Remember this, every wound you thought disqualified you is actually a weapon forged in secret. What once broke you is now part of the arsenal God will use through you. You are feared in hell because you are loved in heaven. There comes a point where running must end. You have delayed, hesitated, even tried to convince yourself that maybe the calling on your life was imagined. But deep down, you know it has always been there, like a river beneath the earth, hidden yet unstoppable. Destiny keeps pressing against the surface of your heart. You cannot outrun what God has written. Jonah tried, and the sea itself rose to remind him. Jeremiah tried, but fire shut up in his bones gave him no rest. You too have tried to silence that inner voice, but every time, it returned louder than before. Picture a bird with wings, yet choosing to walk on the ground. Day after day, it watches the sky, longing but refusing. That is what happens when you deny your calling. You were not crafted to crawl, you were made to soar. The discomfort you feel is not failure. It is a sign you are living beneath what was meant for you. There was a man who spent years working in places that drained him. He stayed because it was safe. But every night, he felt a gnawing emptiness, as if life itself whispered, "This is not all." When he finally surrendered to the voice of God, everything shifted. What once felt heavy became holy. What once felt empty became overflowing. His story is a mirror of yours. You cannot settle when eternity is tugging at your sleeve. as Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 16, verse 25, "For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me will find it." These words are not a threat, but an invitation to step into the life you were designed to live. I know surrender feels costly, to let go of control, to step into the unknown, is terrifying. Yet holding back is far costlier. Every time you delay, a part of you withers. Every time you say, "later," the flame within grows dimmer. But when you say yes, even trembling, heaven rushes in with strength you didn't know you had. Think of it like this: a garden locked behind a gate. Inside waits beauty, fragrance, and fruit. But the key has always been in your hand. The choice to unlock it has always been yours. And here is where I ask you, not with pressure, not with force, but with a gentle hand stretched out, will you unlock that gate? Will you step into the life that has been waiting for you? If this word is stirring something inside you, let your response be simple. Show it in a way that is both symbolic and personal. Let your act of pressing like be the planting of a seed. Let your share be the scattering of light into someone else's darkness. And let your subscribe be your way of saying, "I am choosing not to walk away from this stream of living water." Oh, not because you must, but because you want to. Not as duty, but as desire. When you choose it freely, it becomes beautiful. It becomes worship. It becomes your way of saying, "I will not run anymore." Oh, chosen one, your destiny is not chasing you. It is waiting for you. And every small act of surrender, even this one, is another step toward the life you were always meant to live. And as you rise, heaven itself leans closer, watching the unfolding of your yes. Every choice you make in obedience becomes a stone in the path of your eternal crown. Right now, you stand at a divine intersection. It is not by accident, not by chance, but by orchestration. Every step, even the detours, have carried you to this moment. Heaven has aligned circumstances like pieces of a puzzle, and suddenly you realize you are standing where decision and destiny meet. The weight you feel is not just emotion, it is eternity pressing upon your spirit. When Joshua stood before the Jordan, he was not simply looking at water, he was looking at the threshold between wandering and promise. That is where you are. The wilderness behind you, the river before you, and the future waiting beyond. This is why your soul feels the tension. Part of you longs for comfort, but a deeper part of you craves what God has promised. And here is the truth. Comfort will never birth destiny. Destiny is born in the crossing, in the courage to step where others hesitated. Consider a traveler standing at a fork in the road. One path is familiar, paved, lined with shade. The other is rough, uncertain, and climbs upward. Most will choose the easy one, but you cannot, because heaven has set eternity in your heart. You will always hunger for the higher road, even when it terrifies you. There was a woman who wrestled with this moment. She could remain in the job that suffocated her spirit, or step into the unknown path God whispered about in the night. For months she lingered, afraid of failing. But the day she chose obedience, doors opened she never imagined. She discovered that obedience was the true key to freedom. Her story is not unique. It is a reflection of yours. Heaven speaks clearly through the words in Deuteronomy, chapter 30, verse 19. This day I call the heavens and the earth as witnesses against you that I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life, so that you and your children may live." End quote. Do you hear it? The weight of heaven itself leaning over you, whispering, choose life. Not tomorrow, not when you feel stronger. Today, your choice is not only about you. Like ripples in a pond, it will flow into others, your family, your friends, even generations you will never meet. That is why the enemy has fought you so fiercely here. He knows one obedient yes from you could alter entire lineages. Think of a door standing before you. On one side is familiarity, on the other, the unknown. You cannot see what lies beyond, but you sense the fragrance of promise leaking through the cracks. To step through requires trust. Yet, on the other side of trust is inheritance. And now I invite you, chosen one, to anchor this moment with a prophetic act. Write these numbers in the comments. 818. This number is symbolic. 8 represents new beginnings, and 1 is the mark of divine alignment. Together, 818 is your declaration that a fresh chapter is opening, guided by God's order. Short, simple, but powerful. It means you are stepping into renewal with heaven's direction. Let your own hands testify. I choose life. I choose destiny. I choose obedience. This is not coincidence. This is divine appointment. And heaven has paused everything just to remind you the path of promise is open, and you are being summoned to step through. The weight you carried was never small. Many saw only your smile, your ability to keep going, your way of holding everything together, but few ever knew how heavy it truly was. Behind the quiet nods and polite words, there were nights you felt crushed beneath invisible loads, and yet you endured. Some burdens were not even your own. You carried the disappointments of others, the brokenness of family, the weight of responsibilities you never asked for. Like a bridge spanning a river, you stood in place while others leaned upon you. They crossed safely, but you bore the pressure. It is important you know this. Heaven saw every moment. Not one sigh went unnoticed. Not one tear was wasted. You thought no one recognized the strength it took to keep walking. But the one who numbers the hairs on your head also counted the nights you whispered, "Just help me make it through." Think of a tree in the middle of a storm. Its branches whip in the wind. Its trunk bends low, but its roots cling fiercely beneath the surface. That has been you, storm after storm. You did not break. You bent. But you endured. And now those roots have sunk deeper than most could ever imagine. There was a man who once said nothing of his struggles to others. He looked steady, reliable, always dependable. What no one saw was the crushing anxiety that gripped him each night. He carried his family through financial strain, sickness, and rejection. Yet those years did not destroy him, they deepened him. Later, when he finally stepped into his calling, people were drawn not to his strength, but to the compassion forged in his pain. In the same way, your unseen burdens have carved out empathy. They have given you a heart that sees suffering others overlook. They have made you able to sit in silence with the hurting and know how to comfort without words. This is not weakness, it is holy strength. The Word of God declares in the book of James, chapter 1, verses 2 and 3, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Perseverance, that is the fruit of your hidden load, not the shallow endurance of someone who has never suffered, but the deep resilience of one who has walked through fire and learned to trust the one who never leaves. Imagine a blacksmith forging iron. The metal is heated until glowing, then struck again and again to the metal. The process must feel like destruction, but in reality, each strike shapes it into a weapon strong enough to withstand battle. Chosen one, your burdens were never meaningless. They were the fire and hammer that shaped you into a vessel unbreakable. Your story carries a kind of authority words cannot fake. When you speak, others will listen, not because your life has been perfect, but because your scars prove survival. Your voice is not theory, it is testimony. And testimony carries a weight no argument can silence. So do not despise the heaviness you bore. It is the very thing that now sets you apart. Others may have broken under the same load, but you remained. And that is why the next chapter of your life will not be built on shallow ground. It will be built on the deep foundation only pain can lay. The weight you carried was never wasted. It has made you strong, compassionate, and steady qualities the world desperately needs. And though you may not see it yet, one day soon you will understand. The burdens that nearly crushed you were the same burdens that crowned you. The voices that rose against you were not random. Some came from those you trusted most. Others from strangers who knew nothing about you. Their words stung, cut deep, and sometimes echoed in your mind long after they were spoken. Rejection has a way of lingering like a shadow, whispering lies in the silence. Yet pause and look closer. If their rejection was enough to wound you, it means your presence was weighty enough to provoke them. Empty lives rarely stir opposition, but when you carry light, even the insecure will try to dim it with words. There was a boy named Joseph, whose dreams were so vivid, so undeniable, that even his brothers despised him for them. His gift provoked jealousy. His vision drew hatred. What should have been celebrated became a reason for betrayal. And still, the dreams remained. In time, those same dreams carried him to the palace. The very brothers who mocked him later bowed before him. In your own way, you have lived echoes of that story. Mockery when you tried to share your heart. Silence when you needed encouragement. Betrayal when you offered trust. These voices tried to convince you that you were unworthy, unprepared, unwanted, but every one of them was lying. Think of an eagle surrounded by crows. They circle, they scream, they dive. But the eagle never answers in their altitude. It simply rises higher, until the air thins and the crows cannot follow. That is you. Your strength is not in fighting with small voices, but in rising to the heights where they cannot breathe. We are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms, chapter 27, verse 10, "Though my father and mother forsake me, the Lord will receive me." This is not just comfort, it is identity. You are not defined by who left. You are defined by who received you. The betrayals you faced did not break you, they revealed you. They showed that your worth was never rooted in human applause. They proved that even when the closest ones failed, the presence of God remained. A A story comes to mind of a young woman who dreamed of leading others in worship, but when she shared her vision, laughter was the response. They told her she was unqualified, that her voice was too soft, that she would never make an impact. For years, those words silenced her, until one day she sang alone in her room, and the presence of God filled the air so tangibly that she wept. It was then she understood. Human rejection had no authority to cancel divine calling. Your own calling is the same. It cannot be undone by scoffers. It cannot be muted by mockers. Every lie spoken against you is like straw thrown into the fire. It only fuels the flame. The voices that lied about you were never the final word. The final word belongs to heaven, and that word declares chosen, appointed, anointed, and unstoppable. And when you look back, you will see it clearly. Their rejection was not a wall, but a door. Every no pushed you closer to God's yes. Every betrayal became a stepping stone. Every mocking voice became background noise to the louder truth echoing in your spirit. What was meant to silence you has instead refined you. You are still here, still rising, still chosen. You remember the nights when it felt like everything was collapsing. The job ended. The relationship broke. The dream you held so tightly seemed to slip through your fingers. You whispered, "I can't keep going." And yet, here you are. The very breaking point you thought would destroy you became the threshold of something greater. Breaking has never been the end for the chosen. In the hands of God, breaking is a beginning. Just as wheat must be crushed to become bread, and grapes must be pressed to yield wine. Your breaking point was the place where heaven prepared a greater outpouring. Think of Jacob wrestling through the night. His hip was touched. His strength was gone. Yet he refused to let go. He walked away, limping, but he walked away with a new name. So it is with you. The breaking changed your walk, but it also revealed your true identity. There was a man who lost nearly everything in one season: his work, his friends, even his health. He thought God had abandoned him, but during that time of emptiness, he discovered prayer in a deeper way than ever before. When restoration finally came, he realized the loss had birthed something unshakable within him, a faith that could not be bought, borrowed, or broken. We find in the book of Psalms, chapter 34, verse 18, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." That is your story. The breaking didn't mean abandonment. It meant God was nearer than you realized, holding the very pieces you thought were scattered forever. Imagine a clay jar falling and cracking wide open. From the outside, it looks ruined, but when a candle is placed inside, the light pours out through every fracture, illuminating the darkness. That is you. The very cracks you tried to hide are now the windows through which God's light shines. Do not despise the moments that broke you. They did not leave you empty. They left you open. Open to hear God more clearly. Open to love others more deeply. Open to rise in strength you never knew was inside you. And now I ask you, take this moment and mark it. Write these words in the comments: beauty from ashes. Mendal. This is more than poetry. It is a declaration. When you write it, you are agreeing with heaven's perspective, that your lowest point is becoming the soil of glory, that what burned down is giving way to new growth. You are declaring that even in what felt like destruction, God is producing something beautiful, alive, and radiant through you. Your breaking point was never the end. It was the moment when heaven whispered, "Now I can rebuild you." And what God rebuilds cannot be shaken. Think of a potter's wheel. The clay spins. It collapses. It seems ruined. Yet the potter does not discard it. He wets his hands, presses again, and reshapes the vessel into something stronger, more refined, more beautiful. That is what happened to you. You thought the collapse was final, but in truth, it was the hand of God removing what was fragile to replace it with what would last. Your breaking point became your building point. The ashes became soil. The ruins became foundation. The wound became testimony. And testimony always carries a power greater than the pain. Chosen one. You were not called to stand in the background. You were not formed to live hidden in the shadows of fear. From the beginning, God ordained you to be a warrior in the battle between light and darkness. That is why your life has felt like war, not because you were abandoned, but because you were chosen for the front line. Imagine a soldier handed armor before he has ever seen combat. At first, the weight feels strange, heavy, unnecessary. But when the trumpet sounds and the enemy advances, suddenly the armor makes sense. Every uncomfortable piece becomes the very thing that saves his life. That is you. The challenges you endured were your training, and the weight you carried was your preparation for this battlefield. There was a woman who once thought she was too weak to lead. Her voice shook. Her confidence faltered, and she often sat in the back while others stepped forward. But life kept pulling her into situations where people needed guidance, comfort, or courage. Slowly, she discovered that leadership wasn't about being fearless, it was about being faithful. And as she kept standing, her voice grew strong, her heart grew bold, and others began to follow. Your journey is the same. You've been tested so that you can be trusted. You've been pressed so that strength could emerge. You've been humbled so that pride would not steal your crown. The fire you faced wasn't designed to burn you. It was designed to reveal the gold hidden within you. The apostle writes in the book of Hebrews, chapter 10, verse 35. So do not throw away your confidence. It will be richly rewarded. These words were not written for someone else. They are for you. Your confidence in God, though battered, is still alive. And that confidence will carry a reward no thief can steal. Think of a lighthouse on a storm-tossed coast. Ships toss in the black waters. Waves pound, and clouds bury the stars. But the light, steady, unshaken, guides them to safety. That is your role in this generation. You are not just surviving storms, you are standing as a beacon so others can find their way home. And here is where I extend a gentle invitation. Not as demand, not as pressure, but as a way of letting your spirit agree with what heaven is already speaking. If this word resonates in you, let your act of pressing like be like lifting your torch high, signaling, I will not hide my light. Let your share be like casting seeds into the wind, trusting that they will land in places where new life will grow. And let your subscribe be like anchoring your boat to a safe harbor, choosing to stay connected to streams of words that keep your spirit strong. You see, these are not just buttons on a screen. They are symbols, small acts that echo your inner decision to step into your role, to stop running, and to declare, with your life, I was born for this. Ah, chosen one, the battlefield has been waiting for you, and now, fully armored, fully anointed, you are rising not just for yourself, but for every life your light will touch. And as you rise, heaven watches with joy. The angels see your courage. Every step forward shakes darkness. Every breath of obedience writes history in eternity's book. There are crowns in heaven that do not rust, and they are not given lightly. They are not rewards for convenience, but for faithfulness. Every hidden sacrifice you have made has been noted. The times you gave when you had little, the prayers you whispered when no one was listening, the battles you fought silently while others slept, all of them are jewels being set into your crown. Often, you wondered if your sacrifices mattered. You questioned if your quiet obedience changed anything at all. But hear this, every unseen act has eternal weight. In a world obsessed with applause, you chose faithfulness in secret. And that, chosen one, is what heaven values most. Think of a gardener who plants in the dark of winter. The soil is cold, the days short, the nights long. To anyone passing by, it looks like nothing. But the gardener knows that beneath the surface, life is forming. In the same way, your sacrifices may have looked invisible to others, but beneath the surface, they have been cultivating eternal fruit. There was a woman who gave years of her life serving her community. She cooked meals, prayed over children, and cared for the sick, all without recognition. Many dismissed her, thinking her work was small. But at her funeral, testimonies poured out of how her life had been a lifeline. What she thought was hidden turned out to be the foundation of countless others' strength. So it is with you. You may think your sacrifices went unnoticed, but the ripple of your obedience has reached farther than you know. Every time you said yes when it cost you something, the kingdom of darkness lost ground, and the kingdom of light advanced. The Apostle Paul writes in the first letter to the Corinthians, chapter 15, verse 58, "Therefore, my dear brothers and sisters, stand firm. Let nothing move you. Always give yourselves fully to the work of the Lord, because you know that your labor in the Lord is not in vain." No, your labor has never been in vain. The crown awaits, not because you were perfect, but because you endured. Not because you always felt strong, but because you refused to quit. That refusal has written your name in heaven's record of overcomers. Imagine a runner nearing the end of a marathon. Exhaustion burns in every muscle. Sweat blinds the eyes. But then he sees the finish line. Suddenly, strength rises from somewhere deeper than flesh. He presses forward, not because his body can, but because his spirit refuses to stop. That is you. You have run, stumbled, crawled, but always continued. And because of that, the crown is nearer than you think. Your reward is not only waiting in eternity, but glimpses of it will also appear here. The peace you feel after obeying, the joy that surprises you after sorrow, the strength that comes after a storm. These are foretastes of the crown that will one day be placed upon your head. So do not despise your sacrifices. Do not regret the nights of prayer, the tears poured out, the choices that cost you everything. They have not been wasted. They are treasures, being stored in a place where moth and rust cannot destroy. One day, you will see it clearly. The sacrifices you made in faith will become the jewels of your crown, and that crown will not only rest on your head, it will testify forever that you lived as one of heaven's chosen. There is a moment when mercy draws close, and there is also a moment when mercy warns. You have felt both, the tenderness of God pulling you near, and the seriousness of his voice saying, "Do not delay." Grace is not permission to wander endlessly. It is the open door that one day will close. This is not meant to frighten you, but to awaken you. Just as Noah built the ark, people around him laughed, doubted, ignored. Yet when the rain came, the door was shut, and those outside realized too late what they had missed. Mercy is a gift, but it is also an invitation with urgency. Think of a sunset on the horizon. The colors blaze, breathtaking in beauty, but you know it will not last forever. Slowly, the light fades. That is what delay does. It steals the brilliance of the moment until darkness covers what could have been seen. There was once a young man who kept telling himself he would surrender later. When I'm older, when life slows down, when I feel ready. But the years passed, and the longer he waited, the harder his heart became. One day he realized that delay had stolen more than time. It had stolen softness, sensitivity, and joy. His story is a warning, but also a mirror. Delay is more costly than we admit. The ancient words recorded in Romans chapter 13, verse 11, still echo today. The hour has already come for you to wake up from your slumber, because our salvation is nearer now than when we first believed. You are closer than you realize. The window is not endless. Mercy stands before you now, but mercy also whispers, "Do not ignore me." Every time you postpone obedience, you risk losing sensitivity to the very voice that calls you. Every tomorrow makes the heart grow harder. Every not yet silences the whisper of the Spirit. Chosen one, take this moment seriously, not with fear, but with clarity. You are being invited into life while the door is still open. And here I ask you to act prophetically. Write these numbers in the comments. 515. This number carries weight. 5 represents grace, and 1 represents divine beginnings. Together, they speak of a season where grace is giving you another chance to start again. By writing 515, you are declaring, "I will not delay any longer. I step into my new beginning under grace." It may seem like a small act, but it is not. It is your way of saying, with your own hands, "I hear the call, and I respond." It is aligning your spirit with heaven's timing, not your own. Mercy is still here. The door is still open. But this is the moment to move. Heaven is extending the invitation, and it waits for your answer. Think of a train at the station. Its doors are open. The whistle has blown, and passengers are invited to step inside. But the train will not wait forever. Eventually, the doors close and the journey begins. Grace works in the same way. It opens wide. It invites. It lingers. But it is not infinite. You are hearing this because you are meant to board now. This is your carriage, your moment, your appointed journey. Do not stand on the platform while destiny moves forward. Step in while the doors of mercy are still open. Light cannot be hidden forever. No matter how much the enemy tried to cover you, no matter how long you felt buried, the flame within you was never extinguished. You are a torchbearer, meant to shine in times when the world feels swallowed by shadow. Consider a city during a blackout. Streets dark, voice hushed, fear heavy in the air. Then, one candle is lit. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifts. People draw near. Hope stirs. Courage rises. That is the power of your light, even when you feel small, even when you feel unworthy. Your presence alters the environment around you. There was a woman who spent years in obscurity. She prayed alone, fasted in secret, served quietly where few noticed. Yet everywhere she went, peace followed. People couldn't explain it, but in her presence, anxiety lifted and joy seemed possible again. She didn't realize it, but she was carrying light that others desperately needed. So it is with you. You may not always see it, but your light is not invisible to darkness. Darkness recognizes it even before you do. That's why attacks have come against you. That's why heaviness has tried to rest on you. Hell itself fears the illumination you carry. As Jesus declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 14, "You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden." These words were not spoken only to the crowds. Back then, they echo directly into your life today. You are meant to shine, not shrink. Think of a lantern carried into a cave. The walls glisten. Shadows flee. Hidden pathways reveal themselves. The lantern doesn't need to be large, it just needs to burn. In the same way, your light does not depend on being the loudest or the most visible. It depends on burning faithfully where you are placed. Sometimes you've asked, what difference can I really make? The answer is more than you realize. Light is not measured by numbers, but by presence. A single torch can guide a caravan through the night. A single star can reorient a lost traveler. Your life, yielded to God, is enough to pierce atmospheres others cannot. There was once a young man who doubted his worth. He thought he was too quiet, too ordinary. But every time he prayed with someone, peace came. Every time he showed kindness, hearts softened. Years later, people testified that his simple faith had saved them from despair. His light, though unnoticed by himself, was seen by everyone around him. Chosen one. Your light cannot be hidden because it was never meant to be. You were marked to disrupt darkness, to carry hope into hopeless places, to bring truth where lies once ruled. Even your smile, your words, your presence carry weight beyond what you understand. Imagine a torch handed from one runner to another in a long relay. The flame does not weaken by being passed. It multiplies its reach. That is your calling, to carry light and to ignite it in others, until what began as a spark becomes a wildfire of awakening. You cannot hide what God has placed within you. You may feel unready, but the world is in need, and when the moment comes for you to step forward, the darkness will remember what it always feared. Your light cannot be hidden. When heaven fights for you, the outcome is never uncertain. What you could not do in your strength, what seemed impossible by human means, becomes inevitable when the armies of the Lord are released on your behalf. This is why you are still standing, not because you never fell, but because you were never abandoned. Think of Israel standing at the Red Sea. Behind them, Pharaoh's army thundered with rage. Before them, waves rose like walls. There was no escape, no strategy, no plan. Yet heaven intervened. The waters parted, and what was once an obstacle became the very path to freedom. That story is not ancient history. It is a pattern of how heaven has moved for you. You have faced enemies you could not fight, situations that pressed you until you saw no way out, people who conspired, voices that cursed, doors that slammed shut. And yet, what they plotted against you collapsed. Not because you were powerful, but because you were protected. The voice of God thundered in the book of Exodus, chapter 14, verse 14. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. This was not just a word for the Israelites, it is a word for your own journey. When your strength failed, His hand sustained. Picture a fortress with walls so high, no army could scale them. That fortress has been your life, not because you built it, but because angels were stationed there in moments you thought you were alone. Unseen armies surrounded you. In times when destruction seemed near, a hedge you did not create stood between you and disaster. There was a man once who nearly lost everything. Accusations rose. Finances crumbled. Sickness struck. He prepared himself for ruin, yet one by one, what threatened him fell away. The accusations dissolved. Provision came from unexpected places, and healing touched his body. Later, he realized it wasn't his defense that saved him. It was heaven moving silently, dismantling the enemy's plans. The same is true for you. Much of what you have been delivered from, you don't even know. You only see the battles you fought. You do not see the countless arrows intercepted, the traps dismantled, the storms diverted before they could reach you. Heaven has been busy on your behalf in ways you may never comprehend. Think of a child sleeping in a house while a storm rages outside. Lightning strikes, winds roar, trees bend under the pressure, yet inside, the child rests. Why? Because the Father is awake, standing watch, guarding the home. That is what your God has been for you. You rested. You wept. You even doubted, but He never stopped standing guard. Chosen one. Let this truth anchor your heart. No weapon formed against you has prospered, and none ever will. Every season of opposition has proven this. What rose to destroy you has only confirmed that heaven fights for you. And when heaven fights, victory is not delayed. It may look slow, but it is certain. It may feel hidden, but it is unstoppable. Your story is proof. The hand of God has always been stronger than the hand raised against you. So lift your eyes with confidence. The same God who parted seas, silenced lions, and shattered chains is the one who fights for you still. Every battle ahead already has a verdict written in heaven. Victory. There is a fire that cannot be quenched, and it is the seal of the Spirit upon you. It is not a flicker easily blown out by the wind, but a flame that has been tested in storms. You have walked through valleys, endured betrayals, faced battles that should have left you silent, yet the fire within has only burned brighter. That is the mark of the chosen. You are sealed with fire. Imagine a blacksmith branding a mark upon metal. The heat sears deeply, leaving a permanent imprint that no time can erase. That is what the Spirit has done in you. His mark is not surface, it is eternal. It whispers to every dark force, "This one belongs to heaven." There was a man who struggled with doubt for years. He questioned his worth. second-guessed his choices, and felt as though God could never truly use him. But one night in prayer, he felt a fire stir inside, a warmth that broke through his despair. From that day, he carried a boldness he never had before. His circumstances hadn't changed, but his spirit had. That fire was the seal that no one could take away. As was spoken in the sacred texts of old, the second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 1, verse 22, declares, he set his seal of ownership on us and put his spirit in our hearts as a deposit, guaranteeing what is to come. This is not theory, it is truth. The fire inside you is proof that you are claimed, chosen, and destined. Think of a candle placed in a dark cathedral. At first, it seems small, almost fragile, yet slowly, shadows retreat, corners reveal themselves, and beauty once hidden begins to glow. That is what your spirit-sealed fire is doing in your life. Wherever you go, even unknowingly, you light atmospheres others thought were hopeless. But here is the beauty. This flame is not for you alone. It is meant to ignite others. You are a torchbearer, carrying light into places that long for hope. And every step you take in obedience sends sparks that could awaken fires in people you may never even meet. And so, I extend to you an invitation not as pressure, but as symbolism. If this fire resonates in your soul, let your act of pressing like be like placing fresh oil upon the flame, saying, I want this fire to burn brighter. Let your share be like lifting your torch to pass it along, declaring, this light is not mine alone, it is meant to guide others. And let your subscribe be like stepping closer to the hearth, choosing to remain where warmth and light will continue to grow. And if this message has touched your spirit, write in the comments, flame within. It is not just text, but a witness that the fire in you is real, untouchable, and burning brighter than ever. Chosen one, your story is not one of ashes, but of flame. You are not fading, you are blazing. And the seal of the Spirit upon you is heaven's eternal testimony that you cannot be shaken. You cannot be silenced, and you will not be extinguished. For every season of breaking, a brighter fire has emerged. For every tear, a deeper glow. And now, as heaven watches, you rise as a living torch, your life itself becoming a prophecy of light that darkness cannot overcome. There are times when God whispers comfort, and there are times when He releases strategy. One strengthens your heart, the other guides your steps. You are now entering a season where instruction is being released, not vague encouragement, but clear direction for your path ahead. Think of a captain steering a ship through fog. The waters are uncertain, the stars hidden, and every wrong move could mean disaster. But then, a lighthouse appears in the distance. Its beam cuts through the haze, showing the way forward. That is what prophetic instruction does. It takes you from confusion into clarity. The struggles you endured were never random. They were shaping your ears to hear. The silence you wrestled with was not absence, but training. You were learning to distinguish heaven's voice from the noise of the world. And now, because you have been refined, you are able to discern whispers others overlook. There was a man who for years prayed only when he was desperate. His faith felt shallow, scattered, but in a season of deep loss, he began to seek God with intensity. Slowly, He recognized patterns, a verse repeated, a dream recurring, a conversation that carried weight. Over time, he realized God had been speaking all along. He just needed ears tuned to listen. That is where you are now, ready to hear, ready to move. According to the writings in the book of Hosea, chapter 14, verse 9, the ways of the Lord are aright, the righteous walk in them, but the rebellious stumble in them. Notice this truth: the path is the same, but the outcome depends on response. What stumbles one person strengthens another. The difference is obedience. Prophetic instruction often arrives simply a nudge in your spirit, a passage that will not leave you, a sense of timing you cannot shake. Do not dismiss these moments as coincidence. They are compasses, pointing toward what is next. Imagine standing before a door with a key in your hand. To someone passing by, it looks like any other moment. But for you, it is destiny's threshold. The instruction is the key. When you obey, what was locked suddenly swings open. Chosen one. You are not stepping blindly, even if you cannot see every detail. The one guiding you already knows the end from the beginning. He sees the valleys, the mountains, the hidden dangers ahead, and when he says, "Step," it is never to harm you, it is always to lead you into fullness. There was once a young woman who dreamed of helping children in need, but every time she tried, obstacle rose. Years passed, and she thought the dream had died. Then one morning, she awoke with a scripture heavy on her heart. She obeyed, even though it seemed small, simply volunteering at a shelter. That one step became the door to her entire calling. Today, thousands have been touched through her life. What looked like a whisper was actually a strategy, so it will be with you. The instructions you are receiving now may look small, but they are loaded with divine weight. Your obedience to them will unlock influence you never imagined. Do not despise the whisper. Do not overlook the subtle leading. They are the blueprint for your next chapter. Heaven's strategy for the season to come. The path is unfolding before you, step by step. And every step taken in obedience will bring you closer to the fullness of what you were created to carry. The journey has brought you here not to an end, but to a beginning. You have walked through valleys and climbed mountains. You have endured silence, betrayal, and breaking. Yet through it all, one truth has remained. You are chosen, marked, and crowned for such a time as this. Picture a royal coronation. The crowd gathers, trumpets sound, and the crown, heavy with jewels, is placed upon the head of the one who has endured the trials of preparation. That is what is happening in the unseen right now. The weight you once carried as burden is being exchanged for the weight of authority. You are not being crushed anymore. You are being crowned. This crowning is not about status, but about assignment. It is heaven's way of saying, now is the time. The authority you carry is not for vanity, but for impact. To step into places where darkness thought it had victory, and to declare with your life, the light has come. As the Apostle Paul proclaimed in the letter to the Romans, chapter 8, verse 37, "In all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us." These words are your inheritance, not survival, not barely making it, but conquering, rising above, overcoming, establishing hope in places where despair once ruled. Think of an eagle at the edge of its nest. For a long time, it watched the sky from a distance, wings folded, heart restless. But now, the time has come. It spreads its wings, leaps into the unknown, and discovers the sky was always waiting for it. Chosen one, you are that eagle. You were never meant to stay grounded. You were meant to fly. There was once a young man who thought his failures defined him. He carried shame, regret, and the weight of mistakes that seemed unredeemable. But when he finally surrendered, something shifted. Slowly, doors began to open. Opportunities arose, and he realized the ashes of his past had become the soil of his calling. His scars no longer spoke of defeat, they testified of grace. So it will be with you. Your crown is not placed on a perfect head, but on one that has bowed low in surrender. Your authority is not given because you were flawless, but because you remained faithful, and that faithfulness has qualified you for the season ahead. Imagine walking into a darkened hall, carrying a single torch. As you move forward, the flame spreads, igniting other torches, until the entire hall glows with light. That is the picture of your next chapter, your obedience, your testimony. Your very presence will set fires in others, until what began as one flame becomes a blaze. Chosen one, you are no longer wandering. You are being sent forth, crowned and commissioned. The weight of heaven rests upon you, not to press you down, but to lift you up. Every season of testing has been pointing to this, a life marked with authority, carrying heaven's seal into the earth. Walk now as one who knows they are crowned. Speak as one who knows their words carry weight. Live as one who understands their life is not ordinary, for you are chosen, you are sealed, and you are sent. And as you go, every step will echo with purpose. Every word will sow seeds of light, and every act of obedience will ripple into eternity. This is not just your calling, it is your legacy. Chosen one, you have walked through every word, every image, every whisper heaven has poured into this message. It has not been casual. It has not been coincidence. It has been a divine conversation written for your soul. And now, you stand at the edge of a new season, crowned, marked, and ready. Think of this moment like standing at a mountaintop after a long climb. Behind you leave valleys, storms, and shadows. Ahead of you stretches a horizon wide with promise. You have not arrived at the end, but at the beginning of a new ascent, a higher place of calling. Everything you have endured has prepared you for this. The tears watered the soil. The trials carved your strength. The silence tuned your ears. And the fire sealed you as heaven's own. Nothing was wasted. Nothing is random. Every step was orchestrated for this hour. And here, with gentleness, I extend an invitation. If this word has stirred your spirit, let your act of pressing like be your way of saying, I honor what God has spoken. Let your share be your act of passing the torch, scattering seeds of light into lives you may never meet. Let your subscribe be the anchor that keeps you connected to streams of truth, ensuring you continue to walk in clarity, not confusion. And if this message has burned within you, write in the comments, I choose my crown. These 4 words are not empty. They are a declaration. They are you saying, I refuse to shrink. I refuse to run. I embrace who God says I am. M. Chosen one. Your journey does not end here. It begins. Go forth, sealed, crowned, unstoppable.